Welcome back. We are talking about Fit for Duty for business continuity and emergency management with Vito Mangialardi. Vito, great first segment. Lots of really different perspectives, and I hope people are really thinking about it here. I had a couple of questions for you from what you were saying near the end of the first segment. And my first one is, so you can have someone on your team who certainly displays fit for duty. They've been involved, they participated in exercises, they've helped update plans. But you find that when they are really in the thick of a real crisis, for real now, they aren't the best person to be there. And they do have a backup, but that backup's not ready for can't be on site, let's say, for 6 hours. Because they're covering for something else. They have other things to arrange so they can commit. What happens when you identify someone in a crisis? For all intents and purposes, were fantastic, but now that the pressure's on, they're not right for that role. What do you do?
Good question, Alex, for sure. I know when we do tabletop exercises with the teams, the responders, the stakeholders, you don't really see the behaviors of a real incident. And when a real incident does happen, people do change. I mean, I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
I think about the big power outages we've had in the past years. Certain responders say, "I'm out. I've got a family, young kids at home. We live in the country. We have no power. That's my priority right now." So, very capable person, but they're just not in it for today. Now, when we like to believe, and I'm speaking from a program management point of view, and then I'll put my plan owner hat on. You'd like to believe that if someone is building a business continuity plan through the coaching the business continuity office may do, program manager, they're providing the advice to the business continuity plan leads. When selecting their team, they have to think about their teams and the behaviors of their teams during real incidences. And they, as I see it, have ultimate responsibility to operationalize their business continuity plan, and of course to deal with any issues during activation, because there's lots of things that can happen during a business continuity activation, and you're trying to respond. So for example, if you had an IT failure, well, I'd expect you have an IT contact in your BCP who you can call on demand and solve your problem. If I was the business continuity lead and I lost a couple of my responders on my team, I would be reaching out to others within my own organization. In fact, we have a tab on our plan that lists other people in the company that are not named in our plan, but we can second, who have the skill set that we need
Hmm.
for our role, right? So this is about how deep you go in your planning. As the leader of your submarine, if you wish, you have to be capable of filtering out what's going on around you and be prepared for your own challenges, because you can have cascading problems. You're dealing with a power outage, but at the same time, half your team doesn't show up. So now you can't solve that problem because your team's not there to do the solving. So I think it goes back to really about planning and having a good understanding of who within your department can do the work, as well as secondary responders or third group of responders that are out in the organization. So if Alex, you used to work for me and now you're in marketing may not be an essential operation at time of incident, but I'm at the front line. I'm going to say, Alex, I need you back for a week, and away you go. And I notify you when I activate my plan to say, I've activated my plan. Things are fine right now, but I may need to tap you because I'm not sure where this incident is really going. And business continuity plans as a whole, they're a jumping off point. I've always said you hit the ground running with them, because as a situation evolves, they could be impacting your people, your resource capability, the tools you have, and you need to be ahead of that. Think forward to say, I think I better. While this is going on, I better organize in the background here some secondary plans so that everything does work at the end of the day. But without the people, the resources, you're obviously going to be handcuffed in responding in a timely manner, which is a key point. So I think with a shorter, smaller team, you can still do things. Now, I'm just going to add one thing around that. If you're doing incident management, and as I have been as an incident commander in my current employer for COVID, if Alex didn't show up to the meeting today, and he's a very important guy, I'd be looking for your backup. And if the backup didn't show up, I just pick up the phone, call senior management, VPS level, and say, you know what we're dealing with here. Send somebody now. Find somebody and send somebody for me. I
Mm.
don't I don't assign anybody to go look for it other than the VP of the group, and I tell him exactly what it is that I'm looking for him to send from a skill set perspective, experience perspective. And if he doesn't send that person, then I will find someone myself, or I'll assign someone for that role, and they'll just do the best they can. And when
Eh,
everything is said and done, and you do an after action report, or worst case scenario, if you have a worst case scenario during the incident that was a result of that, then you've done as a leader, as an incident manager, you've done your due diligence to try to mitigate that impact.
It's interesting you mentioned you find the common skill sets if your primaries and your backups aren't available. I tried to have that conversation with somebody at an insurance company many years ago, and they just said, "Oh, that's just stupid. We will always have people available." And I'm okay, if that's what you're assuming, fine. But
Yeah,
they were dead set against it, and I knew those skill sets were in another area because I know that other area was actually taken out of the one I was actually
right.
addressing. So I went, they just created a new area, but they were in here. So I know they have this skill set, but oh well.
So I just want to comment though what something you said that triggered something on my end. Obviously, we rely on resources to do the work, and it's still a fit for duty. Or think of it as an all hazards approach. It doesn't matter why your emergency responders, your business continuity folks, your IT technicians. It doesn't matter why they don't show up. If you take the all hazards approach, they're just not available.
Mm-hmm.
So the policy actually works for that particular one aspect of that, but it doesn't matter. They're just not available. So you need to know what your options are. So that's why in our business continuity plans, I always recommend having some knowledge around the skill sets that you need and who in the organization can do it. But taking that one step further, which I've been trying to initiate, is that there should be a database within every company. In theory, everyone submits a resume. So if we can do some Power BI in the background, or we were able to take resumes and create a database of resumes, and maybe Alex worked in a call center in his previous life, and I'm short call center people. I should be able to go to HR and say, who in the organization has a call center background? Do a bit of sorting through the database. Alex's name pops up. I didn't even know that, but now I know. Call up
Mm-hmm.
Alex. I've got this problem. I need you. Let's talk to your manager, and away we go. The challenge I found with that, apparently, and again, I'm not a privacy officer, is that any information, and it's kind of weird because you do submit your resume to the company, but any of your career information beyond your employment with your current employer is considered privacy. So you'd have to get everybody in the organization to consent, to saying, can we use your resume for emergency use? It's like, you have emergency contact if something happens to you, but, how do we leverage your past experience? So we came up with a plan. We'll try to get, when you're onboarding a new employee, they should sign up and release their resume for that said purpose, because that, it's all about time, and that would really be beneficial for lots of different scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. The other question I had for you, and I wrote about this at one point. I called it the Mighty Mouse principle. The Superman, but as a mouse who used to sing, "Here I come to save the day." And in every disaster situation, I've seen it quite a few times. Someone with a higher hierarchical title, a high one, tries to come in, has no idea what's going on. They're obviously not fit for duty to understand what needs to happen during a crisis, where they fit in, what their role is, but they try to take over. How do you manage a situation like that when you do have a team who has been through everything? They're all fit for duty. You've got the right people, and then all of a sudden someone with a big title comes in and tries to take over, and it's obviously clear you're in the way. How do you deal with that?
Well, you're asking somebody who's been doing this for a very long time. And the first thing I'm going to say to you, Alex, that a um, a reactive response to, which is what I interpret your situation to me is very emotional. So they're just being emotional, but they jumping in, and we need to do lots of different things,
Mm-hmm.
and that really doesn't work well. But if you apply the coordinated response approach, that results in the right action to 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 start mitigating what's going on, right? And those that are closer to the front line with some structure, and they're applying the situational awareness based on knowns and unknowns, right? We know things and we don't know other things. I think that's the best approach to get through it. And I fall back to something I learned a long time ago, and that is we have a process and we're trying to follow our process. And if and a lot of this discussion doesn't happen in the presence of the group, but this goes back to the same other item. It doesn't matter if they're at a C level or management. You can get other employees that show up who want to take over. And at the end of the day,
True.
some
Yeah, that's
some
true.
some emergency responders or business continuity folks, they don't like doing tabletop exercises. You've probably played sports where people don't like coming to practices, but when they want to play the whole game when they show up to a real game. And I say, well, we haven't seen you in our process, our defined process that we've been exercising. It's been confirmed, it's been signed off, and you know you're adding some risk to our ability to do this, the manage it the right way, not the easy way, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we need to remove the behavior, the emotional out of this, and follow along, because we have a plan, right? Not a perfect plan. It's a jump, hit the ground running. So, but this goes back to even awareness. This goes back to, if you have a good program, auditors are on board, risks on board. You're regularly reporting your business continuity emergency management program up the ladder. They should be familiar with it, because in my experience, the bull in the china shop occurs when people aren't even aware there's a plan, there's an incident command, that we have defined procedures. So to me, that's a very important thing, which is why we should leverage things like Business Continuity Awareness Week and bring management to meet with the plan leads and the plan owners and the plan responders, to have that interaction of discussion, get out of the silos, know how we work together, know your dependencies. I have to say, it's so rewarding when things are not working well and the team gets together and they clean that up organically.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a coach. You work with the team all year long, and in between games, when the players are on the ice or on the pitch, you just have to rely they know what they know what they're doing. They're taking that learning and they're applying it, and it starts
Right.
top down. So you have to set expectations early and communicate them.
And be a little bit tactful too. You can't just turn around to the president and go,
No, yeah,
Gene, get out
it
of
is.
here.
But if you are in those circles, they understand what you bring to the table, the value.
Yeah.
Because even when I say I run my business continuity program at Metrolinx, we have 70 plus plans. I don't own any one of them. And when they're activated, they're all self-managed. So if they're individually activated, the BCP runs with it. They communicate with their VP. They're dealing with it. But if it's a bigger event, regional, it's affecting dozens of plans, then you top that up with a bit of an instant command protocol, emergency operations center, and
Mm-hmm.
everything is contained, right?
Right.
And that's really important. We're doing these things, and fit for duty ties into a lot of this. You don't want to tell your VP they're not fit for duty, but they aren't really. We don't need them right now. Thank you very much, and we'll escalate
Yeah.
as soon as we have any problems. Going back to your tactical approach.
Right. Well, let's take the last bit of our segment. We have 9 minutes left. Uh, are there any tips you can convey to our listeners that relate to this fit for duty? Anything you can convey?
Well, thanks. I think this is really a great way to end off this session. I mean, I did mention it's really up to an organization to understand their appetite to actually put in a fit for duty policy, but having one in place can help organizations really set the expectations for healthy and a safe workplace. This is really important, and you need to do it, from the top down. I think it needs to be properly staged, presented, and then eventually with the proper communication material. You almost need a campaign around this to explain to everyone, how important it is. Like, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't get in an Uber or another public transit vehicle if I thought the driver was incompetent. I would get out of the car. Like, I don't like what I'm seeing here, right? You've got to think about being safe yourself. So it's very important to put in place the right educational material, a lot of Q&As to all employees. And I know I mentioned all employees, but we also rely on vendors and external resources and contractors and partners. So this, I go back to COVID, which is a great experience. From a safety point of view, we made up some rules and we said to our very important partners, vendors, suppliers, all interchangeable. When you're coming to our site, you have to wear a mask. And that evolved to, okay, well, when you come into our site, we're hoping that you're vaccinated. Well, we couldn't ask Alex to be vaccinated to come to work because that's a privacy question. But we could say to Alex's company, hey, Alex, when you're sending people over to my business to do repair work, because you're a very important vendor, please make sure they're vaccinated. That was your responsibility. So, the general rule applies. I mean, you got to think about it. It's all about health and safety practices. You as an organization are not going to let anyone out to represent your business if they're not fit for duty, if they can't present themselves in a very professional manner in the presence of your customers, because you would lose your business. You would lose that customer so fast, not to mention how your business could potentially decline if it got out that you had staff that were coming to work in altered states, however you choose to define that, fatigue, medication, stress, and going to do business, and those employees are causing more problems, which then complicates even things greater. So in this discussion of fit for duty, please do not forget to think about your vendors. I did mention make sure you check in with the Canadian or provincial health community to understand how they present this topic, which is definitely on everybody's radar now, that cannabis really being the big thing that has put fit for duty in sort of a different type of lens.
And for our U.S. listeners, I would recommend looking at their state as well, because there are some states that have, legalized cannabis as well. So it applies to them. They should look at their local health as well.
Absolutely.
Agencies.
Make sure you have a champion within the organization, with an HR, an individual to be in, any group. This applies to both non-union labor staff and unionized staff. It doesn't matter if you work for a business. So having a champion or two, or a web page dedicated to this, to tie it, don't do anything special with it, but tie it as part of your safety, campaign. Because I think that's really, kind of really where it fits in. And, while, we have clauses in our contracts with vendors and partners, about doing things safely, do you want to, fortify that with fit for duty? So know up front, before I hire company ABC to be my HVAC mechanic, I'm going to change some words in my contracts to ensure that, they are providing the fit for duty employees to support the safety, safety perspectives that we have within our organization. Right. But it isn't a one-time, not a one-time kind of threat. It's going to be ongoing going forward. I think it's also very important in the policy. It should be revisited, and it should be integrated perhaps with some other policies in an organization that you may have that you think that are relevant. But I think that this will just help make the workplace much safer for everyone. And regardless if you're public facing or not, you could be a manufacturing plant, but you just want to make sure your people are safe at all times to deliver the work that they've been hired to do.
Yeah, I like the part that you just mentioned. Embed it into things that are existing, because sometimes it's easier to adopt
Right.
things that way. Oh, that's just a new part of something I already know about. Oh, okay. Rather than here's all this new stuff and you try to dump it on and then people just kind of ignore it. Oh, it's just something new. I'll get to it when I get to it.
I'm just going to
But
quickly add, you're absolutely right, Alex. That's a great point because this isn't, it's all there already. We're just spinning the words a bit differently, right? Because if you're
mhm,
not healthy, expanding what does not be, what expanding what is an unsafe work environment. It isn't necessarily all about the equipment not there. There's a press there and I'm going to get my hand caught. It could be the person operating the press that's creating the unsafe environment for whatever reason.
right.
So
We've
fit
only,
for duty
oh,
is
go ahead.
fit for duty in my mind does extend to emergency management, business continuity responders, incident command personnel, emergency operations centers. Anyone that is like the police department. Someone that you call on demand to show up. You want them to be fit to do that work under those circumstances and not worry about secondary things.
Yeah, I want my doctor or my nurse or paramedic or fireman, whoever shows up, I want them clear of mind and alert. I don't want them, yeah, I was out late last night, my eyes are red. That doesn't instill a lot of confidence.
No, and as managers, we need to also learn how to through fit for duty and these other elements that can cause that is we need to learn what the markers are. To your point, do you see the red eyes? Are they sleeping at their desk? Are they slurring their words? Do you see them drinking lots of water? You need to ask those questions in advance, or pull the employee inside. And like the cost of sending them home with a paid day outweighs the cost of litigation and a problem of downtime and production. I mean, it's all tied to business continuity.
We've got 2 minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts? Take a minute for a final thought.
I challenge everyone to, if you haven't already done so, I challenge to bring awareness to this to your management organizations and try to apply some good basic practices because it's a matter of of it feeds into business continuity, having the right people available to do the right work at the right time. So I think it's eliminating another risk that we really haven't thought about. Consider it, present it as an emerging risk if you wish.
Mm-hmm. Well, considering a lot of the stress that some people are under these days because of COVID, prices going up, um, so many other things happening in the world, that yeah, this could impact people, and people we may not even think of that could be impacted by this. That are having a tough time, and if they're trying to manage a disaster, that's going to come through.
And to your point about tough time trying to manage, it could be a homegrown problem, however you define that.
Yeah.
And the organizations, what, they are there to help you. Don't be afraid to use your employee assistant program. Don't be afraid to bend your boss's ear. You're not alone. This ties into the mental health well-being.
Yeah.
So leverage those tools available in the workplace to help. If you need help, get help. There's nothing wrong with it. We're in an age where there's a lot going on. There's a lot of distractions, a lot of pressure. Step back and think of yourself.
And on that note, that's the perfect spot to end today's show. Vito, thank you so much. This is really an interesting topic. I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad we touched base at CRT to get you back on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Alex, for inviting me. I appreciate you allowing this topic to be heard because I think it's important in the community that we share thoughts and ideas and we process them on our own terms for the right reasons. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you again. And everybody watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.